The day started like any other in New York City. People rushed to work, taxis honked, and the smell of street food filled the air. But at 9:15 a.m., everything changed. A shadow fell over the city, turning day into night. Sarah Chen, a young diplomat, looked up from her coffee. Her eyes grew wide. Above the city, a massive ship hovered. It was bigger than anything she had ever seen. The ship looked like a giant metal whale, with strange lights blinking along its sides. "What the hell?" muttered Tom, the cafe owner. He stepped out from behind the counter, wiping his hands on his apron. Everyone in the cave stood frozen, staring at the sky. Suddenly, every screen in the city flickered to life. TVs, phones, even the big screens in Times Square all showed the same thing. A creature that looked nothing like a human. It had blue skin, 4 eyes, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. "People of Earth," the creature said in a deep, growling voice, "I am Commander Zexthar of the Galactic Dominion. Your planet is now under our control. Resist, and you will be destroyed." Screams filled the air. People ran in all directions. Cars crashed into each other as drivers panicked. Sarah watched in shock as a group of teenagers huddled together, crying. "This can't be real," Sarah whispered, but she knew it was. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from her boss at the United Nations. "Sarah, get to HQ now. Emergency meeting in progress." She ran out of the cafe, pushing through the crowds. The streets were chaos. Police tried to keep order, but everyone was scared. Above, more alien ships appeared. They were smaller than the big one, but still huge. They spread out over the city like a flock of metal birds. At the UN building, security was tight. Sarah showed her badge and rushed inside. In the main meeting room, world leaders argued on big screens. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to surrender. No one knew what to do. "We need to talk to them," Sarah said. The room went quiet. All eyes turned to her. If they wanted to destroy us, they would have done it already. They want something. We need to find out what. The Secretary General nodded slowly. "You're right, Ms. Chen, but who do we send? This is the most important meeting in human history." Sarah stood up straight. "I'll go," she said. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. "I'm a diplomat. This is what I'm trained for." For a moment, no one spoke. Then, one by one, the world leaders agreed. Sarah would leave a small team to meet the aliens. As she left the room to prepare, Sarah looked out the window. The alien ship still hung in the sky, silent and threatening. She took a deep breath. The fate of humanity was now in her hands. In his command ship, Commander Zexthar watched the chaos on Earth with his 4 eyes. His second in command, Lieutenant Vex, stood beside him. "The humans are panicking, sir," Vex said. "Should we begin the invasion?" Zexthar raised a hand. "Not yet. Let them stew in their fear. When they're at their weakest, we'll unleash our secret weapon." "The monster, sir?" Vex asked, his voice shaking slightly. Zexthar's mouth stretched into what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Yes, the monster. The humans think they know fear now. They haven't seen anything yet." As the alien ships loomed over every major city on Earth, humanity held its breath. Would this be the end of their world, or the beginning of something new? Only time would tell. And time was running out. Sarah Chen stood at the base of the alien ship, her heart pounding. The massive vessel loomed above her, blocking out the sun. Behind her, a small team of diplomats and scientists fidgeted nervously. They were about to make history, the first humans to enter an alien spacecraft. "Remember," Sarah said, turning to her team, "we're here to talk, not fight. Stay calm, no matter what we see." A beam of blue light suddenly shot down from the ship, surrounding the human team. Sarah felt a tingling sensation, and then her feet left the ground. They were being pulled up into the ship. Inside, the air was thick and smelled like metal. Strange lights pulsed along the walls, and the floor hummed beneath their feet. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Welcome, humans," a voice boomed. Commander Zexthar stepped out of the shadows, his 4 eyes blinking at them. He was even taller in person, towering over the humans. "I hope you're prepared to surrender your planet." Sarah stepped forward, her voice steady. "We're here to talk, Commander. Surely we can find a peaceful solution." Zexthar laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Peaceful? You humans know nothing of peace. We've studied your history. All you know is war." "That's not true," Sarah argued. "Yes, we've had wars, but we've also created art, music, and literature. We've explored our own planet and even taken our first steps into space. We're curious, we learn, we grow." The alien commander seemed to consider this for a moment. Then he waved a hand dismissively. "Pretty words, but words alone won't save you. We have technology you can't even imagine. And we have the monster." The human team exchanged worried glances. What could be so terrifying that even these advanced aliens called it a monster? "Show us," Sarah said, her curiosity overcoming her fear. "If you want us to take your threats seriously, we need to see what we're up against." Zexthar's mouth stretched into what might have been a smile. "Very well. Follow me." He led them through winding corridors. The ship seemed to go on forever. Finally, they reached a large, circular room. In the center stood a metal container, about the size of a refrigerator. "Behold," Zexthar said, his voice filled with pride and fear, "our ultimate weapon. The most terrifying creature in the galaxy. Are you prepared, humans?" Sarah nodded, though her mouth felt dry. The other humans huddled close behind her. Zexthar pressed a button on the container. With a hiss of escaping air, the front panel slid open. Everyone held their breath. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a small furry head poked out. 2 big eyes blinked at them. A tiny pink tongue licked a button nose. "Meow," said the creature, stepping fully into view. It looked like a cross between a kitten and a puppy, with soft fur, floppy ears, and a fluffy tail. The humans stared in disbelief. Then Sarah began to laugh. She couldn't help it. The sound bubbled up from inside her, a release of all the tension and fear. "That's your monster?" she asked, wiping tears from her eyes. "It's adorable." The alien commander looked shocked. "Adorable. This is the most feared creature in our empire. Its cuteness is a weapon. It infiltrates our homes, makes us care for it, and then it demands attention and food at all hours." Sarah knelt down, holding out her hand. The little creature trotted over, rubbing against her fingers and purring. "On our planet," she explained, picking up the furry alien, "we keep animals like this as pets. We love them. They're our companions." Zexthar and the other aliens looked horrified. "You willingly live with such creatures? Impossible." As Sarah cuddled the alien monster, she realized they might have found a way to connect with these invaders. Maybe, just maybe, this little ball of fur could be the key to peace between their worlds. "Commander," she said, smiling as the creature nuzzled her chin, "I think we have a lot to teach each other. Why don't we start over? This time, as friends, not enemies." The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and it all depended on a tiny, purring alien that looked like a kitten. Commander Zexthar stared at Sarah in disbelief. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly, trying to process what he had just seen. The human woman was holding their most feared weapon, and she was smiling. "This is impossible," Zexthar muttered. He turned to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Vex. "Are you seeing this?" Vex nodded, his blue skin turning a pale shade of green. "Sir, the human seems to be enjoying the monster's company." Sarah looked up from the purring creature in her arms. "I don't understand," she said. "Why do you call this little guy a monster? He's adorable." The alien diplomats huddled together, whispering in their strange, clicking language. Sarah's team watched in fascination as the aliens' expressions changed from fear to confusion to curiosity. Finally, Zexthar stepped forward. "Human Sarah," he said, his voice a mix of awe and suspicion. "You truly find this creature pleasant?" Sarah nodded, scratching behind the alien pet's floppy ears. "Of course. On Earth, we have similar animals. We call them cats and dogs. They're our pets, our companions." "Companions?" Vex asked, inching closer despite his obvious fear. "You mean you keep these monsters in your homes? Willingly?" Sarah's colleague, Dr. Johnson, a biologist, spoke up. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the creature. Sarah handed it to him carefully. Dr. Johnson examined the alien pet, his eyes wide with excitement. "Fascinating. It seems to be a mix of several Earth species. The fur of a cat, the ears of a dog, and is that a prehensile tail?" The creature wrapped its tail around Dr. Johnson's wrist, purring louder. The scientist laughed in delight. Zexthar watched this exchange with growing bewilderment. But it's dangerous. Its cuteness is a weapon. It makes you want to care for it, to feed it, to love it. Sarah smiled gently. "That's not a weapon, Commander. That's companionship. Love isn't a weakness. It's a strength." As if to prove her point, the alien pet wriggled out of Dr. Johnson's arms and bounded over to Zexthar. It rubbed against the commander's leg, looking up at him with big, adoring eyes. Zexthar froze. His entire body tensed. But then, slowly, hesitantly, he reached down. His long, blue fingers gently stroked the creature's soft fur. It's not attacking," he said, amazement in his voice. "Of course not," Sarah replied. "It just wants affection. Try picking it up." With trembling hands, Zexthar lifted the small animal. It immediately snuggled into his arms, resting its head against his chest. A strange sound emerged from the commander's throat, something between a gasp and a laugh. I think I understand now," Zexthar said softly. He looked at Sarah, his eyes filled with a new emotion, respect. "Perhaps we have much to learn from each other, human Sarah." Lieutenant Vex stepped forward, his fear replaced by curiosity. "Sir, if the humans can tame these creatures, imagine what else they might teach us." Sarah saw her opportunity. "Commander Zexthar, why don't we start over? Instead of an invasion, let's make this a cultural exchange. We can learn from each other, share our knowledge and experiences." Zexthar nodded slowly, still cradling the purring creature. Yes, I think that would be wise." "Lieutenant Vex, send a message to the fleet. The invasion is cancelled. We are now on a, what did you call it, human Sarah?" "A diplomatic mission," Sarah supplied, grinning. "Yes, a diplomatic mission," Zexthar repeated. He looked down at the contented animal in his arms. "And perhaps we can discuss the possibility of adopting some of these pets for our own world." As the tension in the room dissolved into excited chatter, Sarah couldn't help but laugh. Who would have thought that the fate of Earth would be decided not by weapons or technology, but by a small furry creature with a wagging tail and a loud purr? The big reveal had turned out to be not a fearsome monster, but a bridge between two very different species. And as Sarah watched Zexthar gently petting his new friend, she knew that this was just the beginning of an incredible adventure. The next day, Earth was buzzing with excitement. News of the aliens' change of heart had spread quickly. People everywhere were talking about the cute alien monster that had saved the planet. Sarah Chen found herself in a large meeting room on the alien ship. Commander Zexthar sat across from her, still holding the furry creature. Several human and alien diplomats filled the room. "So," Sarah began, "let's start by understanding each other better. Why did you think this little guy was a monster?" Zexthar stroked the creature's fur, his four eyes blinking nervously. "On our planet, we value order and predictability. These pets, as you call them, are chaos incarnate." Lieutenant Vex nodded vigorously. They demand food at odd hours, leave fur everywhere, and worst of all, they make us feel emotions. Sarah couldn't help but smile. And that's bad. For us, yes, Zixthar explained. We're a logical species. Emotions cloud judgment. But these creatures, he looked down at the purring animal in his lap. They make us feel things we don't understand. Dr. Johnson, the human biologist, leaned forward. Fascinating. It seems your species has a very different emotional framework from ours. Sarah had an idea. Commander, would you and your team like to visit Earth? See how we live with our pets? Zixthar hesitated, then nodded. Yes, I think that would be educational. Hours later, Sarah led a group of nervous aliens through a bustling dog park in New York City. Dogs of all sizes ran around, playing and barking. Their owners chatted and laughed. The aliens huddled together, eyes wide. There are so many monsters, Lieutenant Vex whispered. A large, friendly golden retriever bounded up to the group. The aliens shrieked and tried to hide behind Sarah. It's okay, Sarah laughed, petting the dog. This is Max. He's very friendly. Would you like to pet him? Slowly, cautiously, Zixthar reached out a trembling hand. Max licked it enthusiastically. The alien commander jumped, then laughed in surprise. It's warm, he said, wonder in his voice. As they walked through the park, Sarah explained the concept of pets to the aliens. She told them about loyalty, companionship, and the unconditional love animals could provide. But what purpose do they serve? One alien diplomat asked. They don't seem very efficient. Not everything needs to be about efficiency, Sarah replied. Sometimes it's about joy, comfort, and friendship. The aliens looked confused but intrigued. They watched as a child threw a ball for their dog, both human and animal laughing and playing. I think I'm beginning to understand, Zixthar said softly. Suddenly, a cat darted across their path, chasing a butterfly. The aliens jumped back in surprise. What was that? Lieutenant Vex asked, his voice shaking. Sarah grinned. That's a cat. They're a bit different from dogs. Want to meet one up close? She led them to a nearby cat cafe. Inside, cats of all colors lounged on cushions, climbed cat trees, and played with toys. The aliens watched in fascination. They're so independent, Zixthar observed. Yet the humans seem to love them just as much as the dogs. Sarah nodded. Every pet has its own personality, just like people. As they sat drinking coffee, which the aliens found strange but enjoyable, a sleepy tabby cat wandered over and curled up in Zixthar's lap. The alien commander froze, unsure what to do. But as the cat began to purr, a smile spread across his face. I think, he said slowly, I'm beginning to see why you humans value these creatures so much. Sarah watched as the other aliens tentatively began to interact with the cats. Some were still nervous, others were clearly falling in love. Commander, she said, I have an idea. What if we set up an interplanetary pet adoption program? It could be the first step in building a lasting friendship between our species. Zixthar looked at her, then down at the contented cat in his lap. You know, human Sarah, I think that's the best idea I've heard in several light years. As they left the cat cafe, Sarah realized that sometimes the biggest misunderstandings could lead to the greatest opportunities. Who would have thought that pets, Earth's simple companions, would be the key to intergalactic peace? 2 weeks had passed since the aliens' visit to the dog park and cat cafe. The idea of an interplanetary pet adoption program had sparked excitement on both Earth and the alien homeworld, which humans now knew was called Xyrox. Sarah Chen stood in a large hangar at NASA, surrounded by a mix of human and Xyroxian scientists. In the center of the room stood a strange-looking machine. Are you sure this will work? Commander Zixthar asked, his 4 eyes blinking nervously. Sarah nodded confidently. Dr. Rodriguez is our top engineer. If anyone can make this happen, It's her. Dr. Rodriguez, a brilliant woman with wild curly hair, was making final adjustments to the machine. "Okay, folks," she announced. "I think we're ready for our first test." The machine was a teleportation device designed to safely transport pets between Earth and Xyrox. It was a product of human ingenuity combined with alien technology. "Who wants to go first?" Sarah asked, looking around the room. A young Xyroxian scientist named Clix stepped forward, holding a carrier. Inside was a fluffy white cat named Snowball. I'd like to try," Clix said nervously. "Snowball has become my friend. I want to take her home to Xyrox." Sarah smiled encouragingly. "That's great, Clix. Okay, Dr. Rodriguez, let's do this." Clix placed the carrier in the machine. Dr. Rodriguez pressed some buttons, and a soft humming filled the air. There was a flash of blue light, and then the carrier vanished. Everyone held their breath. Dr. Rodriguez checked her computers. "Transmission successful," she announced. "Snowball should be arriving at the Xyrox station right now." A large screen on the wall flickered to life, showing the receiving station on Xyrox. There, in perfect condition, was the carrier. A Xyroxian scientist opened it, and Snowball stepped out, looking around curiously. The hangar erupted in cheers. Humans and Xyroxians hugged each other, caught up in the excitement of their success. "We did it," Sarah exclaimed, high-fiving Commander Zexthar, who was still getting used to this human custom. But their celebration was cut short by an alarm from Dr. Rodriguez's computer. "Oh," she muttered, typing frantically. "What's wrong?" Zexthar asked, leaning over her shoulder. Dr. Rodriguez pointed to a flashing red dot on her screen. "There's a problem with the return portal. We can send pets to Xyrox, but we can't bring them back." A hush fell over the room. This was a big problem. If they couldn't bring pets back from Xyrox, the whole program would fail. Sarah's mind raced. They had come so far. They couldn't give up now. Suddenly, she had an idea. "Wait a minute," she said. "What if we don't need to bring them back?" Everyone looked at her in confusion. "Think about it," Sarah continued. "The Xyroxians were terrified of pets because they didn't understand them. But now they're learning to love them. What if, instead of a pet exchange program, we create a pet education program?" Dr. Johnson, the biologist, nodded excitedly. "I see where you're going with this, Sarah. We could send trained therapy animals to Xyrox. They could help the Xyroxians learn about emotional bonds and caregiving." And added Clix, his eyes shining, "We could send Xyroxian scientists to Earth to study your animals and learn how to care for them properly." Commander Zexthar stroked his chin thoughtfully. This could work. It would allow for cultural exchange without the need for constant back-and-forth teleportation. Sarah grinned. "Exactly. We'll be building bridges between our worlds, one paw at a time." The room buzzed with renewed energy as humans and Xyroxians began planning this new initiative. Dr. Rodriguez started modifying her machine for one-way trips, while others discussed training programs for both pets and Xyroxian caregivers. As Sarah watched everyone working together, she felt a surge of pride. This was human ingenuity at its best, taking a problem and turning it into an opportunity. Commander Zexthar approached her, a rare smile on his face. "You know, human Sarah," he said, "when we first came to Earth, we thought we were superior. But now I see that your species has a unique strength. You don't just solve problems, you transform them into something better." Sarah nodded, touched by his words. "That's the beauty of cooperation, Commander. Together, we're stronger than we ever could be apart." As the sun set outside, casting a golden glow through the hangar windows, Sarah knew that this was just the beginning. The universe was full of challenges, but with human ingenuity and alien wisdom combined, there was no limit to what they could achieve. 3 months had passed since the start of the pet education program. Sarah Chen found herself on Xyrox, standing in a large dome-shaped building. Around her, Xyroxians of all ages were interacting with Earth animals. The sight filled her with joy and amazement. "I never thought I'd see this," Commander Zexthar said, coming to stand beside her. "My people, playing with pets, it's like a dream." Sarah smiled. "It's wonderful, isn't it? Look over there." She pointed to a young Xyroxian child who was gently petting a golden retriever. The dog wagged its tail, and the child let out a sound that Sarah realized was laughter, something rarely heard on Xyrox before. "That's Zlob," Zexthar explained. "He used to be afraid of his own shadow. Now look at him." As they watched, Zlob hugged the dog, burying his face in its soft fur. The dog responded by licking the child's face, causing more giggles. "It's not just the children," Sarah observed. "Look at the adults." In another corner, a group of Xyroxian scientists were studying a pair of cats. One brave alien was using a laser pointer, watching in fascination as the cats chased the red dot. "They're learning about play," Sarah explained. "It's an important part of emotional development." Zethar nodded thoughtfully. "We never understood the value of play before. We thought it was inefficient." As they walked through the facility, Sarah saw more heartwarming scenes. An elderly Xyroxian was sitting quietly, stroking a purring cat in her lap. The tension that usually marks Xyroxian faces was absent, replaced by a look of peace. "That's Grandmother Zix," Zexthar whispered. "She hasn't left her home in years. The cat is the first thing that convinced her to come out." Sarah felt a lump in her throat. The power of animal companionship never ceased to amaze her. They approached a large aquarium where several Xyroxians were watching colorful fish swim by. "The fish were an unexpected hit," Sarah remarked. "We thought they might be too alien for the Xyroxians." Zethar chuckled, a sound that still surprised Sarah. Ironically, their alien nature made them less frightening. "We didn't have preconceptions about them." As they continued their tour, they came to a room filled with soft chirping sounds. Inside, small birds fluttered in a large aviary. Xyroxian children watched in wonder, their eyes following the birds' flight. "The birds teach us about freedom," a Xyroxian teacher explained to Sarah. "We're learning that care doesn't mean control. It's a challenging concept for us." Sarah nodded, understanding. The Xyroxians' rigid, orderly society was being gently challenged by these earth creatures. Suddenly, there was a commotion near the dog area. Sarah and Zexthar hurried over. A Xyroxian had fallen and hurt his arm. As medical staff approached, everyone was surprised to see a small terrier sitting quietly by the injured alien, gently nuzzling his hand. "What's it doing?" a confused Xyroxian asked. "It's comforting him," Sarah explained softly. "Dogs can sense when someone is in pain. They try to help." The injured Xyroxian looked at the dog in wonder, then hesitantly patted its head. The tension in the room eased as everyone witnessed this small act of interspecies compassion. As the day drew to a close, Sarah and Zexthar stood at the exit, watching Xyroxians reluctantly saying goodbye to their new animal friends. "You know," Zexthar said, "when we first discovered Earth, we thought we'd found a primitive planet to conquer. Instead, you've conquered us, with kindness and fuzzy creatures." Sarah laughed. "That's the power of compassion, Commander. It can change hearts across galaxies." As they walked out into the alien sunset, Sarah realized that this program had done more than just introduce pets to Xyrox. It had started a revolution of empathy and emotional understanding. The universe, it seemed, had much to learn from Earth's simple, loving creatures. And Sarah knew that this was only the beginning of a beautiful interstellar friendship. 1 year had passed since the first contact between Earth and Xyrox. The universe had changed in ways no one could have imagined. Today, Sarah Chen stood on a platform in front of a huge crowd. Humans and Xyroxians sat side by side, many with pets on their laps or by their feet. "Welcome," Sarah said, her voice carried across the gathering, "to the first Intergalactic Peace Conference." The crowd cheered. Sarah saw Commander Zexthar in the front row, a fluffy cat curled up in his arms. She smiled at the sight. A year ago, we stood on the brink of war, Sarah continued. Today, we stand united, brought together by the most unexpected of ambassadors, our pets. As if on cue, a group of dogs ran across the stage, followed by some Xyroxian children. The audience laughed and clapped. These animals have taught us more than we ever imagined, Sarah said. They've shown us the power of unconditional love, the joy of play, and the strength of companionship. She gestured to a screen behind her, which showed images from the past year. Xyroxians learning to play fetch, humans trying Xyroxian meditation with purring cats, and mixed groups of children from both planets giggling as they watched fish in a huge aquarium. But it wasn't just the Xyroxians who learned, Sarah added. We humans discovered new things too. The screen changed to show human scientists studying Xyroxian technology. By working together, we've made incredible advances. Our new teleportation system has revolutionized space travel, and Xyroxian emotion sensing technology is helping us understand and treat mental health issues better than ever before. The crowd murmured in agreement. Sarah saw humans and Xyroxians alike nodding and smiling. Most importantly, Sarah said, her voice growing softer, we've learned that differences don't have to divide us. They can bring us together, make us stronger. She paused, looking out at the sea of faces, blue alien skin next to human tones, 4 eyes meeting 2, tentacles and hands alike petting furry companions. Today, we're not just signing a peace treaty, Sarah announced. We're starting a new chapter in the history of both our worlds, the Intergalactic Federation of Earth and Xyrox. The crowd erupted in cheers. Confetti rained down, a mix of earth paper and shimmering Xyroxian crystals. As the celebration continued, Sarah stepped down from the stage. She was immediately surrounded by well-wishers, both human and Xyroxian. Excellent speech, human Sarah, Commander Zexthar said, approaching her. His cat meowed in agreement. Sarah laughed. Thanks, Zexthar. And hello to you too, Whiskers, she added, scratching the cat's ears. You know, Zexthar said thoughtfully, a year ago, I would have found this chaos unbearable. Now, I find it beautiful. Sarah nodded. That's growth, Commander. For all of us. As they walked through the crowd, Sarah saw countless examples of the new harmony. A human child was teaching the Xyroxian how to blow bubbles for a playful dog. A group of Xyroxian scientists were excitedly discussing Earth's marine life with human marine biologists. Even the food at the buffet was a mix of Earth and Xyroxian cuisine. You know what the best part is? Sarah said to Zexthar. This is just the beginning. Imagine what we can achieve in the years to come. Zexthar's 4 eyes blinked in what Sarah now recognized as a smile. Indeed, human Sarah, the universe is vast, and now we can explore it together. As the sun set on this historic day, casting a beautiful mix of Earth's golden light and Xyrox's purple hues, Sarah felt a sense of hope she'd never experienced before. The future was bright, filled with the promise of friendship, discovery, and understanding. And it had all started with a small, furry creature that the Xyroxians had once called a monster. Sarah chuckled at the thought. Sometimes, the most profound changes come from the most unexpected places. As she watched a group of human and Xyroxian children playing with a litter of kittens, she knew that this was the beginning of a beautiful, intergalactic future. The universe would never be the same, and that was a wonderful thing.